If you look at these two men, there is something so incredibly masculine about them that's very different from the types of masculinity we see today. In a world where the size of your muscles, your bank balance, and even your truck seem to define how much of a man you are, I am determined to explore a different form of masculinity. One where elegance and style were the hallmarks of a gentleman. And to be a gentleman was the highest form of compliment. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how classic masculinity differs from modern masculinity, and what desirable traits from these old icons you might want to adopt for yourself. I'm going to be using two main reference points for my form of classic masculinity. First, we have James Bond as played by Sean Connery. Second, I'm using Cary Grant, one of the leading men in the golden age of Hollywood. Without a doubt, one of the biggest differences between classically masculine men and modern men is their sense of dress. There used to be a very clear idea of how a man should dress, one path that a man should follow, and there were different levels to this, often depending on your social status. Now there are 1,000,001 styles for men to choose from, and I think it's great that we have all these different modes of self-expression. Except the downside is that many men just no longer have any style at all. Perhaps it's a result of the overwhelming choice that we now have. Or perhaps it's because people hold themselves to a low standard in other areas of their life too. In my opinion, classic style remains the most masculine way to dress. After all, it's commonly said that a suit on a man is like lingerie on a woman. And I think that's because certain garments are clearly designed to enhance the male physique. For example, take a look at the blazer or the suit jacket. It's padded at the shoulders and tapers down to the waist, creating a powerful V silhouette. Even the necktie, notice how it's subtly pointing at something? In terms of colors, classically masculine men wore a much more limited palette of white, blues, greys, and black. This is something that came up again and again when I looked at the stylish gentlemen of yesteryear like Cary Grant, Paul Newman, Alain Delon. They stuck to a very basic, limited color palette. These days, it's quite common for grown men to wear colorful outfits in fear of being drab or boring. But remember that the most masculine and the most attractive colors are still the most simple. The classic gentleman used style to show off his taste and only drew attention to himself with subtle accessories. These would be a pocket square, a tie, or perhaps a boutonniere, where he would add a dash of color. And even popular wristwatches of the time were so much smaller than they are today. Today, people might think of a long, bushy beard as the pinnacle of masculinity, but this was previously not the case. If you look at all of the men in the era of classic masculinity, they were all clean-shaven. Facial hair was seen as a sign of slovenliness, and I would definitely be guilty of that right now. In fact, men would even go to public restrooms to shave to avoid having a 5 o'clock shadow. When it comes to hairstyles, men wear a much greater variety of haircuts today. But previously, there was a much more rigidly masculine hairstyle that men conformed to. They wore their hair short but with a scissor cut that did not show any skin, unless of course they were in the military. And this was way before the countercultures of the 1960s opened up the idea to long hair on men. To achieve these classic hairstyles, you just need two tools, a comb and pomade. Pomade was pretty much the only hairstyling product for men for decades. Or today you could use a styling cream for a slightly less greasy finish, which is actually what I'm using right now. When it comes to your fragrance, certain scents will really give you that old Hollywood actor vibe. One of my personal favorites is Acqua di Parma Colonia. This is more of a spring and summer fragrance because it has a very prominent citrus. And it's not actually a man's cologne, it was more of a unisex one, but it was worn by men like Cary Grant, Humphrey Bogart, and David Niven. Other options would include something by London's Floris or the House of Creed. For example, Floris number 89 was worn by James Bond author Ian Fleming. Creed's green Irish tweed was specifically created for Cary Grant, but also worn by George Clooney and even the King of England. When it comes to skincare and beauty treatments, there was less of an obsession with staying young in the classic era of masculinity. When you look at Sean Connery, the lines on his face only seem to make him more charismatic. The lines tell a story. You can tell that he's been places and done things. So my channel is mostly for the younger gentleman, but as you approach 30 and beyond, I wouldn't worry about trying to look youthful forever. You know, live your life, and if you end up with some scars to show for it, then so be it. The classic idea of a masculine physique was less obsessed with the size of the muscles and more in overall maintaining a slender silhouette with an athletic tone. Exercise was more based around sports than bodybuilding for its own sake. Obviously, the diet available in the 1940s and 50s was much less processed and there were fewer fast food and convenience options. Height was a very desired trait, and you'll see that a lot of leading men from this era were so much more taller than the average guy of the time. Obviously, there's nothing you can do about that, but I think the classic philosophy is to do the best with what you have and to see working out as just one part of looking good. These days, many men make the mistake of thinking that going to the gym is all you need to do. And playing a sport as a form of exercise is a great idea because you're also learning a new skill. For example, I like boxing training as well as going to the gym regularly. Now, I'm no Mike Tyson, but these boxing sessions give me a mental workout as well as a physical one. So if you are after a more classically masculine physique, consider which sports could help you obtain the look you're after, rather than just going to the gym every single day. The old sense of masculinity was a lot more constrained and stoic than what we see today. The classic gentleman treated everyone with respect, even if he disliked them. He did not lose his temper under pressure, and he did not deliberately draw attention to himself by being unnecessarily controversial or provocative. Today, you'll see a lot of men literally screaming for attention, and they claim that their aggression is an essential part of their masculinity. The classically masculine gentleman had an undercurrent and a capability of aggression, but they knew how to keep it under control and only show it when absolutely necessary. There was a very thick layer of cool that gave them a suave, debonair air, and this elegance drew people in, making others attracted to them. They used their words to show their intelligence, so it wasn't necessary for them to act like salespeople. Instead, they made themselves so intriguing that other people wanted to buy in. And when it comes to women, you'll see these men were excellent seducers with words. So I think there's a lot to be said for mystery and creating an elegant persona for yourself, even in today's age. Gentlemen, if you do the things in this video, you will end up playing a very different game to the men around you. But I think many elements of classic masculinity are still appreciated by women, friends, and co-workers in your family. So remember to look to the icons of the past for inspiration, not just the modern talking heads that you see fighting for your attention online. And let me know, who is your favorite male icon from years gone by? Is it mine, Cary Grant, or Sean Connery? Perhaps it's Steve McQueen or Clint Eastwood. Or it could be a modern gentleman who shows many of these traits of classic masculinity. For example, George Clooney, Benedict Cumberbatch, or maybe David Beckham. If you also see James Bond as an archetype of masculinity, then I think you will really enjoy my video about how to dress like the real James Bond in 2024. In this video, I take a look at 3 outfits from Sean Connery's James Bond movies, and then I show you some suggestions for how you could wear them today and bring them up to date. Until the next one, guys, I look forward to chatting with you all in the comments, and I thank you very much for watching.